In this chapter we're going to be focusing on making the door open. So let's start by opening the blend file game start door.blend, which is where we left off from the last chapter. We've got our keys rotating and sending out a message telling our door to unlock when the main character collides with it. Now let's add some game logic for the door. Let's move the view to focus in on the door, which is at the end of the right hallway here. So let's select that. And first thing we need to do is create a door opening animation. So at frame 1, press I and insert a keyframe for rotation. Now let's jump to frame 40 and let's rotate the door on the Z-axis and swing it all the way open. And press I and insert another rotation keyframe there. Let's go back to frame 1, press Alt and A, and see how that looks opening up. Perfect. Now that we've got the door rotating to open up, we need to figure out how to play that animation using logic bricks. So let's start by adding a game property and rename it Open. Change the type to Boolean, but leave it unchecked, as if to say it's false, because the door's not open right now, it's locked. So leave that as false. Now add a message sensor and type in unlock in the subject field. Connect that to an AND controller and connect that to a property actuator. In the property actuator, change the property to open and type in true as the value. So what this is saying is that when the door receives the unlock message, the open property now becomes true, so the door can be opened. I'm going to minimize these, but before I do, I'm going to rename them so I know what they are. Rename this to open equals true. Minimize. Now we don't want the door to open automatically. We only want it to open when it collides with the main character. So let's add a collision sensor. And for the property, type in main char. And let's connect that to an AND controller. And let's add another sensor. Let's add a property sensor. And in the property sensor, click on the property field, choose open, and type in true for the value. And connect that to the same controller as the collision sensor. So this is saying if you collide with the main character and you're unlocked, you're able to be opened, then we can play the opening animation. So to play the opening animation, add an action actuator and connect that to that controller. So here's where we play our animation. In this blank field here, click on that and you can select door action, which is the animation we just made. Change the start frame to 1 and the end frame to 40. And that about does it. So to give you a recap on all this, when the door receives the message to unlock, its open property becomes true. And when the open property is true and the main character collides with it, it's going to open up. Beautiful. Perfect. They don't call it game logic for nothing. Now let's play through the maze and see if it works. I'm going to move that down and make sure you're back on frame number 1, because if you start from frame 40, when you play the game, the door is going to start open. So always go back to frame 1 to reset all the animations. Press 0 on the numpad, press Alt and Z for textured view, press P to play, and let's go grab those keys. Alright, moment of truth. When we collide with the keys, they should disappear. Boom. They disappeared. Now let's trek back and go find the door and hope that opens up. Where am I? Oh, right. Turn left. Right. And there's the door. Moment of truth. Once I bump into it, it should open up. Boom. Beautiful. But there's a problem with the door. The door will continue opening every time I collide with it. So we need to add something to make sure this only happens once. So press escape to end the game. And let's go back to the door. We only need to add one thing. Since the door can only be opened up once the open property is true, let's just simply make it false once it's open. So add a property actuator, select the open property, and type in false as the value, and connect it to that last controller there. So when the open property is true and it collides with the main character, the door is going to open up, but then the open property reverts back to being false. So now the door is stuck open. And that's it. Now in the next chapter we'll learn how to actually save this as a game you can double click on and play without using Blender.